A day in the life of a PMP certified project manager. What does that look like? For someone who's been doing this for over 2 decades, my friends, I can tell you that the answer should be varied because it depends on the organization and the industry you're working in. I've worked in everywhere from construction and gaming to pharmaceutical, and I can tell you it could vary wildly. But I'll give you a few examples. Number one, a day in the life of a PMP certified project manager. When you're PMP certified, truly, when it has passed through you, you know you got to show up early, punctual at best. And that means having a very good night's sleep to prepare for the day after. It is not one for those who like having hangovers and showing up at 9 a.m. when the meeting started at 8. Punctuality matters. The day often starts early, ensuring that you're at work on time and ready to hit the ground running. And some roles require you to open the office, set up meeting rooms, and ensure all communication channels like phone lines or virtual conferencing tools are operational. I remember working for an environmental engineering firm, and I had to be there early, set up the phone line, dial in, and be there ready on the phone to start taking notes and getting everyone organized. Another big thing we would do was kickoff meetings. These kickoff meetings begin with a morning touch point or a team huddle, and this sets the tone for the day by reviewing priorities, deadlines, and any overnight updates. Now, if you are in a daily meeting or a weekly meeting, usually you are the facilitator or the note taker. And early interactions may involve connecting with clients or stakeholders to address urgent matters or provide status updates. Part of these meetings, you often hear it being said, you spend a lot of time communicating. But let me show you what that is like. When we say the project manager spends 70% of the time to 90% of the time communicating, that happens a lot in meetings. So there's a lot of reporting within the meeting. It's not enough to have the report sent to the client, be they a government client or a private client. In the meeting, they're still going to have questions, and they're going to ask you questions about the report you sent them yesterday in preparation for the meeting today. So you, as a project manager, you spend some of the time during the day reviewing the reports, compiling the reports, ensuring there are no mistakes. You definitely don't want that. This is usually about project progress, tracking milestones, deliverables, financial performance. In one of the jobs I did, it was about earned value management, SPI, CPI, CV, SV, all those metrics, and the S curve to illustrate to management that your project is either on track or maybe falling behind. You'll also be involved in facilitating discussions, leading team meetings to ensure alignment across all stakeholders. And facilitation may involve solving conflicts. If you have team members reporting to you and conflicts are emerging, it is your role as the leader to resolve those hot triggers that suddenly flare up in the middle of a meeting. You may have to put on that hat that says, let's take this offline or call people to order in accordance with the contract. We call it a team contract. You see, this is why I said it depends on where you find yourself, because for a junior project manager, you don't get involved in that stuff. And you could be a PMP certified junior project manager. You could even be a PMP certified project manager, even a senior project manager, and not have people reporting to you. But as you begin to have people reporting into you or working on your team, when crazy stuff flares up in a meeting, you got to be ready to bring stuff down, especially in front of a customer. Nothing is worse than two team members going at it in front of the customer. That's a huge no-no. So part of your job and your role should be to ensure harmony within the team. Another big thing we would do in these meetings, and not just the daily or the weekly meetings with the client, we also had team meetings. So you got to understand on some projects, you have daily meetings. On some projects, you have daily and weekly meetings. And on some projects, you have daily meetings with everyone, and you have some team huddles with the people doing the work. So, when it comes to the team huddles with the people doing the work, this is where you could be involved in risk assessments, issue management. This is where you could review the risk register. I remember when I was at Motorola doing the divestiture, we would review the risk register to assess potential threats, and we would take rapid action because in that divestiture, it was a very short span of time, and we needed to act fast to put out whatever fires or ensure that everything was under control. When it comes to issue resolution, again, in very turbulent environments, volatile environments, you want to address any unexpected challenges by coordinating with team members immediately. There was actually a lawyer on one of our teams who said, as soon as anything comes up, you got to get me involved. And that's kind of like a war room scenario where you have a room open for people to come through all throughout the day. And this doesn't happen on every project, but when it's crunch time, when it's implementation, yeah, you got to make sure those rooms, war rooms, are in place so that there can be rapid action taken, rapid resolution, rapid action. When it comes to the daily work activities in the life of a project manager, there are several. One of such responsibilities, especially in big firms that value scheduling, and they don't see scheduling as micromanaging. They see scheduling as the way forward. That's the way we live. You are involved in scheduling with tools like Microsoft Project. That was the story of my life. MS Project schedules, sitting down with the engineers, putting the schedules together or updating the schedules with actuals. So if you're in a very schedule-driven environment and you have a very schedule-driven client, you may need to sit down with the people doing the work one-on-one. We didn't do this in meetings in some of the firms I was in, but you would sit down with each engineer or each program or project manager and help them update what they were doing in the firm. So imagine you are a program manager, you're PMP certified, and you got many other project managers working with you. Sometimes you just want to manage your own program schedule. How does it get updated? You sit down with the project managers and update those high level milestones. So whether you're working as a certified PMP certified project or program manager, these meetings could be several and they could come in different dimensions. There could also be client site visits. For some projects, you might visit client sites to ensure deliverables meet expectations, or it might just be a goodwill visit. We had a lot of those. Mentoring and coaching, sharing expertise with team members by mentoring them. When I was at Honeywell, I made this part of my job. This was not part of my job description, but I realized a lot of my colleagues were failing the PMP exam, and they were being told if you don't pass this exam, you cannot elevate in the firm. And I felt bad about that. So, being a PMP, I wanted to help them. So, I asked my boss, and my boss said yes. So, that got added to my job. So, every 2 weeks, I would have a meeting in one of the meeting rooms. My boss's boss would provide pizza, and it became part of my routine to have my every 2 weeks, training and coaching for my peers, some of them higher up than I was in the firm, and those some of those who I was mentoring that were just coming up as newbies. One of the things that a project manager should always expect to do is administrative and creative work. So part of the administrative work is going to be things like actually writing the report, getting the data from Microsoft Project to Excel, compiling it into a visually appealing output, brainstorming sessions where you're collaborating with your team on new ideas, new solutions, approaches to improve project outcomes. And you could also be involved in creating a WBS. There's a misnomer about project management that a newbie has, and that is I plan my project, I execute my project with my team, I monitor and control and close it. And while that might happen for some, in the real world of project management, planning, it hardly ever ends. It's continuous planning. And I've found this in programs and projects alike. We call it adaptive planning. You got to adapt your plan. So, for example, we had a team member, Matt, and Matt didn't complete his groundwater treatment experiment yesterday. Well, Today, the customer is asking why that didn't happen. How did they know it didn't happen? Because they're looking at the Microsoft project schedule. And that's why part of my job on a daily basis was always updating the plan. And boop, the plan's moved out. Why did it move out? Because Matt didn't do what he should have done yesterday. And this is how the world of a project manager who is in the weeds, and many of us are in the weeds, you got to adapt your plan. So in fast-paced companies like engineering or defense and space, projects evolve constantly. While executing one project, you may begin planning another, adjusting for changing priorities or new business needs. When it comes to risk analysis, again, it's something that you're going to be doing daily. You're going to conduct detailed risk analyses to proactively manage uncertainties and program collaboration. If you're part of a program, then you got to coordinate with program managers and other project leads to ensure that strategic alignment. So, depending on where you find yourself, engineering, IT hardware, IT software, gaming, medical, pharmaceutical, medical instruments, whatever you're in, there's gonna be pieces of this that you find the project manager doing. And it can be a lot of fun, but it could be very high pressure. And honestly, this is one of these jobs where you need to watch your mental health because if you're not watching your mental health, you are going to blow a gasket and it will not be good. So I encourage you to always remain calm under pressure. You got to do things like taking walks, having some tea or a drink of your choice, coffee, of course, no inebriation. Drinks like tea, coffee. Some people don't like that. Water, juice, whatever you need to just be yourself and calm and happy and satisfied. And a lot of walks, walking outside a facility. A lot of people take breaks that are for other things other than keeping fit. But I want to encourage you to use your break to keep fit, right? Go outside the office, walk the perimeter, go for your lunch break, take your lunch breaks. So for me, a day in the life of a PM, if you're not going for lunch, you are not doing yourself very good, my friend. Go for your lunch break, decompress, eat good food, go to the cafeteria or bring your own food if the cafeteria food isn't that good, but have some sort of decompression. Don't shortchange yourself. That is what I can tell you, having worked in various industries as a project manager. Now, when it comes to wrapping up the day, it's something that could be thrown off because at the last minute, you could have something coming from the boss or something coming from on high. I would say at the end of the day, wrap it up on a nice high note. Good night to your fellow workers. Always have that optimistic, positive mental attitude. I started valuing this after working as a project manager for some years. I started realizing you need to leave on an upbeat note. Don't go home crazy, mad, angry with any of your coworkers. Try to be as positive as you can. See it like you're on the same team. You're trying to help each other, right? So end the day on a high note. Some teams they end with debriefs of how the day has gone, especially in crunch time. I remember during the divestiture, we'd have a final meeting and everyone would leave and everyone's on the same page. So when we're coming in the next day, we all know what we're going to do. As far as preparation for the next day, if you have a team, a junior, young team, and not necessarily young in age, but they haven't worked together a whole lot, if you're in an agile environment, you might need to organize tasks or organize the thoughts for the next day. And especially for young teams and teams that don't have a whole lot of experience. But once the team is mature, you don't need to do any of that. The team's on autopilot. They know what to do, but there might be instances where you need to ensure that loose ends are tied up and priorities are clear. And the reason why your PMP could help you is because you are approaching your work in a more methodical process driven way when you are doing the governance pieces, you're thinking integration. When you're doing the scope aspects, you're really hyper focused on scope and requirements traceability matrices, which have been invaluable to me. Work breakdown structures. When you're dealing with schedule, you're dealing with a software tool that has got your back, like Microsoft Project. Smartsheet isn't a bad one. When you're dealing with cost, Excel has got your back. When you're dealing with quality, you know that if you got processes and procedures that have been put in place with team interaction and discourse and the history of the organization, you're in good hands. When it comes to resources, having a team charter, having a resource management plan, some sort of team contract to keep the team focused, when you have a plan for training, a training plan, and when you have that leadership mindedness to give your team feedback, you know great things are going to happen. And when it comes to communication, honest, free, open, respectful communication. That works a whole lot. When it comes to risk, you should have a risk register. The risk management plan, to be quite honest, a lot of firms don't do that. But when it comes to a risk register, that is one you should not compromise. There could be really bad things happen when you're not actively planning for risk. And when it comes to procurement, sometimes you're involved and other times you're not. There are a lot of jobs I was not involved in the procurements, but there was some where the procurement responsibilities fell on my lap, and you need to be ready to represent the firm, to negotiate in good faith, to be respectful, and to make sure you find that middle ground. So, in conclusion, my friends, the life of a project manager who is certified is dynamic and demanding. There might be some cushy jobs where you're not doing a whole lot and you're getting away with not doing so much, but I realize that in this day and age, once you're given that salary that is going towards that six figures and beyond and in the 200s and high 200s, it requires a mix of strategic planning, proactive problem solving, effective communication to ensure success. So if you're ready to thrive in this exciting role of project management, the PMP provides the tools, the confidence to excel. And all you need to do is show up as the best version of yourself. That's what matters most. Thank you for joining me, my friends. I wish you all the best in your journey. If you have questions, put them in the comments below. But remember, I offer coaching and mentoring to people who are transitioning roles or are stuck in a role and going through a tough time. For that coaching and mentoring, go to pmanonymous.com. I can guarantee you, we'll get you out of that bottleneck. We'll get you unstuck. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you next time.